Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another Target Jobs webinar. You're joining us today for getting into law without a law degree. So hopefully we'll have lots of students on the call with us today that are interested in a law career, which is just amazing. Thank you all to everybody that's tuned in for taking time out of your summer holidays. And yeah, if anybody has any questions throughout the webinar, there is a little questions tab down in the bottom right hand corner, so just pop your questions in there, and once we've finished our discussion we'll go to a live Q&A. So we're joined today by Zoe and Ali. So we're joined by Latham and Watkins, Ashurst and Osborne Clark. All three of the firms will also be joining us at our Aspire Law event as well. So if you are interested in that, do go onto the Target Jobs website and you can pre-register your interest. But I will just start by introducing everybody. So Zoe R, do you want to go first?
Sure, thanks. Hi everyone, my name's Zoe Reed. I'm the Graduate Recruitment Manager at Osborne Clark. I've worked at the firm for just over 15 years now, involved in all aspects of graduate recruitment and development. So hopefully I've got some insights to share with those of you who aren't studying a law degree at university and how valuable you are to law firms like ours.
Lovely. And then Zoe W.
Hi, I'm Zoe Washington. I'm the Senior Graduate Recruitment Coordinator at Latham & Watkins. I've been with the firm for just over 3 years now.
And then last but not least, Ali.
Hi, my name's Ali. I've been at Ashurst for a year and a bit as a trainee solicitor, so I'm just finishing my third seat and going into my fourth.
Lovely. So we'll start by asking Ali a question. So I know you're a trainee solicitor on the call with us today. So do you just want to share a little bit more about kind of what you studied, why you chose to go for a career into law, and maybe how you found the transition from university into going into being a trainee solicitor?
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll start with the title, getting into law without a law degree, suits me down to the T. I went quite a roundabout way. Initially quite traditional. I did history at University of Nottingham. I then did a master's in international business, thinking that I wanted to go into some sort of financy role, and initially went to an insurance company called Eshaw. Had a really good year there, but whilst I was there, that's where I had some work experience with the legal team, really enjoyed it. For those of you who have any legal experience, I picked up an NDA and for some reason really enjoyed looking through it. And that's sort of how I knew that I wanted to go into the career. And at that moment made the decision, well, took some time to make the decision to go and do the GDL and the LPC. I know the exam system has changed now somewhat, but to basically do the conversion course and the LPC and start applying for training contracts and vacation schemes. And so I did that while I was at my work, and to do that I just tried to get as much experience as I could in legal teams, leveraging the fact that I was already at a workplace. And that's quite a hard conversation to have, I think, saying I don't want to be here anymore, but can you let me get some experience somewhere? And so there's definitely some nuances of how I was successful at that, but that helped a lot. And then yes, it was just going through the rigmarole of applying for training contracts and vacation schemes, which Zoe R and Zoe W will know all about. And then luckily I got an interview at Ashurst, and that's why I'm here. That's why I'm here now. So yeah, that's it.
Fantastic. And are you enjoying yourself?
Loving it. I really am. I really am. So I've done a seat in projects. I've done a seat in so that's our project finance and projects team. The seat in disputes and international arbitration. And I'm currently in a seat in digital economy, which is a mix between, our team is a mix between corporate transactions, assistance, and commercial contracting. All have been really interesting, and still really, really glad that I made that decision. It's definitely taking the time to not do a law degree, work out what I wanted to do, I think has really helped me just go into a career, go into the trainee 2 years, which is quite intense. And throughout that, always realize that, yes, this is what I want to do. I'm still really enjoying it. Whereas my eyes were already open to that. So I think it's helped, definitely.
No, that's absolutely fantastic. So kind of we've got Ali's now experience of his route that he took to get into law, but maybe kind of for the two Zoes to answer either or, kind of what are the routes for a non-law student to take? So if I was, as Ali did, studying history now, going into my final year, kind of what should I be doing now to prep to going into a career in law?
Sorry, I think we both came off mute then at exactly the same time. Zoe, did
You
you
go
want
ahead.
to go?
No, you go ahead.
Sure. Okay. So and we might find actually that different firms are going to take different approaches, because as Ali mentioned, the routes to qualification are changing in the profession. So there's the introduction of the Solicitor's qualifying exam, which for Osborne Clarke, all of our trainees joining from 2024 onwards will need to qualify through that route. For us, we are still going to ask our non-law future trainees to study the postgraduate diploma in law, because we think that they need to have that foundational legal knowledge before coming in and starting their training with us. So the route is pretty similar actually to Ali's, just with some slightly different exams and courses just before they join through the SQE. But yeah, still applying through training contracts and vacation schemes within the same timeframes as they are at the moment, so applying 2 years before your start date. But that's how we're looking at things for 2024 entry onwards.
And just to cover for Latham, we have taken the same approach in that we, all of our trainees starting from 2024 onwards will be qualifying under the SQE, and we will still be requiring our non-law trainees to undertake the conversion year, the GDL. But I think the only thing that I would add kind of from Latham is that if you, as Zoe said, if you're kind of looking to start a career in law, this is the perfect time if you're going into your final year. It's when you'll find that most firms, Latham included, will be recruiting final year non-law candidates for vacation schemes. So it's good timing, and it's a good first step, hopefully, to attend a session like this.
Absolutely. And I know you both mentioned there kind of the change from the LPC, which I think is what Ali mentioned he is currently doing, changing from the LPC to the SQE, which anybody who's kind of interested in law will be more than aware of by now. But for a non-law student, I mean, what is your opinion on the change from kind of the LPC to the SQE? Is it going to be more beneficial for students that haven't maybe studied law before, or does it not really affect it?
I think so Latham's approach and our feeling is that it's a really exciting opportunity to refresh what we do and the way that our trainees qualify. I think for non-law students who want to come to Latham, it won't change the path too significantly, like I said, and like Zoe said, in relation to Osborne Clarke, they will still be required to do the GDL. But kind of beyond that, the SQE is an exciting opportunity for firms to kind of, rethink kind of how they train and really set their trainees up for success. So for Latham, trainees will be required to complete their SQE1 and SQE2 assessments before they join us. And then there's also what we're kind of calling at the moment a Latham Plus element to what we'll be offering, which is additional modules that are tailored to the firm and hopefully will put our trainees in the best position to start their contract at the firm.
Yeah, and just to add, we're actually exactly the same. So we will be requiring everyone to do those SQE exams before they start training with us, and have a bespoke module of materials to be delivered to all of our sponsored trainees. Ours doesn't have a name just yet, but I'm sure it will when we launch it in September.
That's absolutely brilliant. So kind of from a recruitment perspective, obviously students, whether they've studied law or they haven't studied law, there is a vigorous kind of training process for them to go through. They've got those qualifications that they will need to pass before they can start. But in a different sense, so maybe not along the academic route, what kind of soft skills and qualities would you be looking for from a recruitment perspective that you would get from a non-law student?
So I think it's still largely similar. You know, the role of a lawyer is the same regardless of the degree that you've studied. So we would still have the same expectations on the soft skills that both law and non-law students bring to the firm and to the training program. I think what it's really important for non-law students to really think about is how they can add value into the business and how they're different to law students and to other students through their experiences. So thinking about, you know, people who have studied a STEM degree, really thinking about why that subject has been of interest to them, how it links into the law, and how they're going to be able to differentiate themselves amongst the other candidates that are coming through the application process. So really focusing in on what makes you unique, what your experiences are, and why that's going to add value.
And would you agree with that, Zoe W?
Yes, I was trying to think of things to add to that, but I think it sums it up perfectly.
No, that is absolutely fine. And kind of, Ali, from a perspective of somebody who's done that application process successfully, would you kind of say the same? That's how you were able to kind of put yourself in the same kind of group as the students that had studied law. What kind of helped you in that application process?
Yeah, so when I was speaking there, I was thinking of three things. I think firstly, if you're applying, consider it as an advantage rather than disadvantage. That can be two ways, in the sense that you've got a broader view. You might not have a broader view of the world, but at least you've got a broader view of your history degree or your STEM degree or whichever that is, which can help. The example there I use is that one of our partners, Anthony Johnson, his sort of key line for us is, if we want to get into our projects team, you should be signing up to the new scientists, so you understand all the science behind the technologies that we're facilitating through the contracts that we draft. So that's one thing. And then the second thing I think is use it as a slight protective blanket. In my interviews that I had with Ashurst, I'd gone and done my own legal research because I was interested in it. And when I was asked the question on what would you include in the contract in this example, I could say, well, through my own research, I would say this, and this, but I don't know for sure. It's something that I'm looking forward to studying on the GDLPC. And that way, so one, you're caveating your answer, which is completely fine because you haven't studied law, and two, it shows that you've been proactive about going out there and researching what it is that actually goes on in the legal jobs. So they know that you're not just applying because you've got a vague interest. You do have an interest. So it's a protective blanket for saying the wrong thing on the law, but shows that you're interested in your working around it. So that's sort of my advice on that bit.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely brilliant. And I know you mentioned when you were working for eShore that you were able to get some kind of experience kind of in their law team. Did you have any kind of law experience? Were you in any societies, pro bono or anything like that whilst you were at university? Or was it just kind of when you stopped studying and got your first kind of job that it was shown to you as an opportunity?
Yeah, so my mum's been telling me that I should be a lawyer since I was about 16, which obviously put me off massively.
Yeah.
And therefore I didn't do much at university. I didn't see it as a career while I was in my 4 years at Nottingham. It was only when I started at eShore that I properly started looking into it about 6 months in, and from there it was for the first 3 months, it was just asking to help out as much as I could. And then it was transitioning over and doing sort of 2 days in the legal team, 3 days in my strategy role. And then I also took a week annual leave to go do some informal work experience at Denton's to make sure that it was definitely what I wanted to get into. So some people might go, that's a strange use of annual leave, but that was because I was in work and I had to stay in work at that time. That was what I had to do to get some more experience there. So that was it. It was on the job and then doing some extra work at a private practice, using what channels I could.
And as always, mums clearly know best.
Exactly.
In the end, I bet that was a big "I told you so" you got when you told her you were swapping careers.
Hasn't stopped yet.
That's brilliant. And then kind of to both of the Zoes, is there anything that you see quite often in applications from non-law students? So does being in the pro bono society come up quite a lot, or is there anything else that you've seen that actually from a recruitment perspective would actually really stand out and prove that a student is interested in a career in law even if they haven't studied it?
Definitely. I think what's really great to see from non-law candidates is just how proactive they are in learning about commercial law, learning about the legal industry. And so kind of taking part in your law society, your university's law society, the pro bono society, taking the time to attend firm open days and take part in kind of open platform internship opportunities are really great ways to develop your understanding and show law firms that you're applying to the time that you've taken to kind of develop your knowledge, understand, what the life of a trainee actually is. And so I think it's a huge benefit for non-law students that you have to go out and proactively, research the career, maybe a little bit more than you would as a law student. So I say all of those things look really great on an application to recruiters.
Yeah, definitely echo the same sentiments. Really, it's about going out and doing that research, engaging with firms, and then telling firms why you want to be a lawyer, and having that information readily available should you come to interviews or assessment centres.
No, that's brilliant. Thank you. We've had our first question in the chat. So if anybody else has any other questions, there's no such thing as a silly question. Pop them in whilst we've got the panel here. You've got a captivated audience to answer your questions. So make sure you send them through. So Peyton has asked, does anybody on the panel have any insight into how law versus non-law entry routes are viewed internally amongst the trainees themselves? So maybe this is more of a question for Ali, but have you felt that there's any difference between maybe the trainees that are the same amount of time in as you that did do law at university, or is there not that much of a difference?
So socially, there's no difference. No one really talks about it. No one really goes back to it. I think practically there's advantages and disadvantages of either route. I'd actually say there's a slight advantage from doing the conversion course and the I don't know what it will be like with the SQE, but the conversion course means that everything that is quite applicable to day-to-day roles is a little bit more fresh in the head, because you've condensed it into 1 year and it's only 1 year away from when you started generally. Whereas some people might do their contracts law course module in the first year of their university degree, so that ends up being 5 years from starting to the end. And so sometimes those general principles might help, but as overall, there's no real difference. Everybody enjoys themselves. No one sort of talks about what you studied and what you didn't study, apart from just asking the question what they're doing. So that's the only slight difference is just when you last studied your basic principles of law.
No, that's fantastic. And have from a recruitment perspective, is there really any differences, or do you kind of see them performing the same once they're there?
we don't see any real difference. About half of our trainees come from non-law backgrounds, and you know, if you lined them all up at the end of their training contract, or even on day one, you wouldn't be able to pick out who was a law student and who was a non-law student. So everyone comes in, I think, because there's the benefit of the postgraduate courses that everyone has to complete before they come in on their training contract. Everyone is coming in with the same foundational knowledge. As Ali said, it just depends on the time frame with which you completed that. Although sometimes people with non-law backgrounds, I think particularly STEM, for us anyway, you know, they naturally gravitate more towards commercial and IP, and they find that having that non-law STEM background is hugely advantageous in the kind of life sciences work that they would be involved with in that team. But other than that, nothing really.
Yeah, same for Latham. We hire pretty much an equal split of law and non-law students. The only thing I'd add is I think if you've done a language degree, that can be a benefit, and you'll no doubt be asked to use those language skills during your training contract, for kind of some sort of document and translations. But that's really the only thing. I when I look at our cohort, I don't know kind of who's studied what. It doesn't really make a difference.
That's really interesting. Do you get quite a lot of foreign languages kind of students coming through for law?
We do. We have a lot of language, a lot of trainees who studied language degrees, and in our internal kind of intranet, those languages are added to people's profiles. So our trainees say that sometimes they'll just get an ad hoc request to translate, a Spanish document or something from another practice area. So yeah, we do see that, and I think it's a great way to network and get to know other areas of the firm.
Oh, that's brilliant. We've had another question. So Kirsty has asked if there is a major disadvantage if she doesn't have any work experience, just because internships are really, really competitive, especially when applying for kind of graduate roles. So if for some reason a student hasn't quite managed to get any kind of law experience, is there still opportunities for them to be able to kind of land a training contract and go into kind of a law role?
Yeah, absolutely. I think for Latham, when we're looking at an application, we're looking at your transferable skills, and those transferable skills don't need to come from legal work experience. It can come from any type of work experience that you have, whether that is an internship in another industry, or if it's a summer job, some volunteering that you've done. I think the only guidance that I would give if you haven't yet been able to obtain any legal work experiences, to make sure you're supplementing your knowledge and your understanding of what work in the type of firm that you're applying to might be like, and there are a wealth of resources to help you do that. So really, I think it's about just kind of reflecting on the experience that you do have, and then supplementing your knowledge where you're kind of lacking the experience.
Yeah, definitely. Trying to get involved in as many webinars, information sessions, events, where you can get to meet people from graduate recruitment team, from trainees. We're coming up to the autumn milk round season, so there will be lots and lots of opportunities for you to engage with lawyers and with trainees and really get to find out more about the profession. So I would definitely recommend, if you didn't have work experience, to make sure that you put those sessions into your application forms as well, so that you can show that you've done that wider research into the profession.
I just thought I'd jump in and say, in terms of work experience not in the field, I think work experience outside the field is almost as important or equally important in that sense, or at least it felt like that from my application and how I went through the process. I leveraged my work at eShore in the strategy team, but I also leveraged my work at a summer camp, where I was an assistant, a course assistant, and then became a hockey coach, and then became a boarding house master in inverted commas for a period of 6 weeks. And in my interview, that was the summer job was the one that got asked the most questions about. Almost, it was how did you react to certain situations there, and show the transferable skills, because the transferable skills are everywhere in any work you do, whether it's learning how to answer emails and organize your day, or whether it's understanding what a key issue is and reacting under pressure. So I would really emphasize that any work experience is good work experience and can really help. And so and has helped me since I've started. It's helped me in the transition since then. So.
No, I think that's really helpful, especially for maybe graduates who've done their degree and gone into the workplace, and then, as you did, decided that maybe a career in law was an exciting kind of career path for them. Just kind of a question that one of you touched on there, with kind of the different skills and things that you're getting from different work experience. Are there kind of some top soft skills that you would say that you highly look for in a candidate, whether that be, I know Zoe W, you mentioned there about like commercial awareness. Is there kind of maybe your top 5 soft skills that you're looking for in any graduate that you'd be taking on board?
So I think for us, it's commercial awareness is a key one. Time management, communication and teamwork skills, hugely important. Our trainees work on lots of kind of global matters across offices with, across different practice areas. So, communicating clearly and being a team player is really key. And then being proactive and resourceful, and ambitious as well, I think is a top skill that we would highlight at Latham.
Yeah, for us, all of those. So I won't repeat those, but I suppose just to add things around problem solving, analytical ability. So being able to, look at very lengthy documents and pick out the key points, and distilling those down for a client is really important, as is attention to detail, and just getting under the skin of the matter.
Yeah, and Ali, kind of from a different perspective, are there any soft skills that you have used or you use kind of daily that you think would be really important from somebody who's doing it right now?
So I like the attention to detail. That's a really big one as a trainee. If you can nail that, I think you're going in the right direction. So any job or work experience that teaches you that is really, really useful. Analytical skills and problem solving, I think, again, that's part of the day to day, and that again is really useful. You can find there. I think also being comfortable. The communication teamwork is the wording that covers it. I'd sort of put it in a box which is communicating in a comfortable manner with clients or senior people at the firm. If you can demonstrate, I think, that you're comfortable chatting to people and talking through problems and not be scared or nervous, and you might be nervous inside, but if you've got the ability that you've learned how to do that with senior persons, I think that really helps. So that would be one of the ones that if you can learn how to do that, whether that's your boss at a job that you become comfortable for and you realize that a partner is just another boss, you just try and talk to them in that nice way, that really helps.
No, that's brilliant. Thank you. And Cleo has asked, within your firms, do you have a lot of trainees from a science background?
Not huge numbers. I think this is, whilst half of our trainees come from a non-law background, the makeup of that 50% is very diverse in itself. So you normally only have 1 or 2 people from different degree disciplines, but those disciplines are very, very wide ranging.
And the same for Latham again. Typically, our non-law trainees have come from a humanities degree, but that being said, I think we have obviously our IP practice, but then healthcare and life sciences as a key sector, and so a STEM background would be particularly beneficial there.
And I know with you just saying there, obviously you've got your different kind of areas of law that they work on. Do you find kind of when trainees qualify and specialise, do you find that kind of a lot of non-law students tend to go down the route of what they then studied initially at university? Is that's the area that they choose to kind of focus on?
No, I don't think so. I think we see non-law trainees qualify into a really wide range of our practices. But if someone comes into their training contract with a very clear idea of where they might want to qualify from, that's kind of been informed by their undergraduate degree, you might find that they kind of gravitate there. But generally, quite often trainees will start their training contract thinking they want to qualify into one area, and then they end up doing a seat somewhere that they hadn't thought about, and they love it and they qualify there. So no, I think it's quite varied.
Yeah, and just to add that lots of firms now have a sector focus, so it doesn't mean that you have to do a particular type of work to engage with clients in a sector that's of interest to you. So you could be a corporate lawyer in the life sciences sector, so still have your hand in a topic that you personally find interesting, but completing work that perhaps you wouldn't necessarily have thought that you wanted to qualify into with a STEM background. So law firms now have many more opportunities.
Lovely, and we've had another question actually come in. They've got a recognised qualification from overseas, and they've also got 10 years experience. Do you have any kind of suggestions on maybe how they would get into a law career in the UK?
I'm not clear on whether they're referring to a legal qualification, but I think my recommendation to international students is always to take the time to learn about kind of the legal industry in the UK, in London, and to really make sure, kind of referring back to the upcoming milk round and events that will be coming up, that you're taking advantage of those. And then in terms of your kind of wealth of experience, that you're reflecting on that and reflecting on the transferable skills and the professional kind of experience that you've gained.
Yeah, and I'd also recommend to that individual to perhaps speak to the Solicitors Regulation Authority directly about whether their qualification will count towards the SQE route to qualification, or whether they would need to sit additional qualifications here in the UK in order to qualify. So definitely seek them out too.
Brilliant, thank you. So somebody else has then asked, so under the presumption that if you do a vacation scheme and you're successful on that vacation scheme, you may be offered a training contract. If you were a non-law student that still needed to do extra study, so still haven't done kind of like their GDL maybe, and they were successful on a vacation scheme, what would it necessarily mean for them to be successful? Would there still potentially be a place on a training contract after they've done the extra study? Or what would that kind of look like if it's something that your firms have experienced?
Yeah, so final year students are eligible to apply for, final year non-law students are eligible to apply for our vacation scheme. So where we recruit 2 years in advance, we would only be able to take finalists or graduates from non-law programs through our programs. But yeah, they have, we assess all candidates in the same way, regardless of whether you're law, non-law, or a graduate or a career changer, because we're looking for evidence of transferable skills through our assessment processes. So we're not expecting people to come in as ready-made lawyers. We're looking for potential. So yeah, just as much chance as anybody else. But the benefit of getting a training contract offer whilst you're in your final year would be that the firm would pay for your PGDL and SQE courses, and provide you with maintenance grants as well. So instead of having to invest that sum of money yourself before getting your training contract, the firm would cover that cost for you. So there's a huge financial advantage in getting involved sooner rather than later.
And all the same applies for Latham as well.
That is absolutely fantastic. And Ali, I know you mentioned kind of your process before. Did you do a vacation scheme, or did you just jump straight into the training contract?
I was lucky enough that I was a direct training contract applicant, and whether that's lucky or not, I don't know. But I was lucky enough to get the offer, so I was happy to get the offer. But I know that Ashton is the same. If you do your vacation scheme and you're a non-law applicant, you then will go to do the GDL and the LPC if you haven't started the GDL and the SQE, the conversion course. And I think, and I'm sure Zoe will tell me if I'm wrong, you can start and do the GDL conversion course before. You just will have to pay for it yourself. And if you're lucky enough to get a vacation scheme and an offer after that, that it doesn't close you off applying for the vacation scheme or getting the training contract later. It just might change the timings in terms of when you're offered when you start.
Fantastic. And then somebody in the chat has asked, is there any advice for international students? So is it the same for international students? Kind of if they're not studying law, is it the exact same process apart from them needing to find a company that maybe would offer sponsorship, or is there a different process for international students?
There's no different process at Latham. We do still we consider international students. I think the things to be aware of is our kind of visa restrictions. So if you are an international student, it's likely that you wouldn't. At Latham, we don't fund visas for participating in vacation schemes. So again, it's a case of making sure that you're supplementing the knowledge and experience that you would have gained on a vacation scheme to make a direct training contract application, and just making sure that on that point that you are developing your knowledge of kind of the London and kind of UK legal industry, and you also that your motivation is clear for why the firm that you're applying to and why London or kind of the location that you're applying to. So that motivation is a really key point, as well as just making sure you're developing your knowledge. But we certainly do fund visas for international students once they've been offered a training contract. So that's all taken care of kind of at the point of offer.
Yeah, same for us at Osborne Clarke. The only thing I just highlight as well is just around qualifications. So if you've studied your undergraduate outside of the UK, it may also be worth just checking that sits with the Solicitors Regulation Authority's matrix for undergraduate degrees, in terms of that eligibility to qualify through the SQE process. So if you've got an international qualification, just double checking that to make sure that you don't need to do anything further here in the UK before accessing those programs.
That's really great insight. Thank you for that. So to kind of go, somebody's asked another question. To go back to the kind of vacation scheme, training contract discussion, they are a final year history student and they don't yet have any legal experience. So would it make more sense for this student to apply for a vacation scheme rather than a direct training contract?
Yes. I think you need to, you know, a vacation scheme is your opportunity to learn about the firm that you're applying to and develop your knowledge of what work in a particular practice area, what being a trainee is actually like on a day-to-day basis. So as much as possible, you know, as far as it is a job interview, kind of an extended job interview for a training contract, it is also your opportunity to develop your skills, develop your understanding. So you know, we always recommend that you do a vacation scheme where you have the opportunity to.
Brilliant. And would you agree with that, Zoe?
Yeah, definitely. Although I suppose just to add on that if you're not successful in getting a vacation scheme, you can then apply for training contracts directly as well, because we know that vacation schemes are really competitive, well, and training contracts are too. But you know, don't be put off if you're not successful. Just keep applying.
Keep going. No, that's lovely. Thank you. And I think that's kind of most of the questions that we've had coming through. So just to kind of round it up, what would be your biggest piece of advice for a student that is currently not studying law that would then want to go and study it? If you could give them one piece of advice, what would it be? And I'll put that out to everybody.
Don't undersell your experience and what you've learned so far.
I think mine would be just to take every opportunity you can to develop your understanding of law and kind of the firms that you're interested in.
Zoe, I think, put my idea in far more succinctly than I would have done. Take every opportunity, go out and get as much experience as you can in as many different ways as possible.
No, that's absolutely fantastic. And are you aware that any of your firms at the moment, kind of, do they have any opportunities at the moment? Do they have like insight days that non-law students can kind of go to? I mean, all three of the firms that we've got today are all on Target Jobs. So you can absolutely go to kind of the Target Jobs and go to their pages on there and have a little look kind of at what they do, what they stand for, which will help your commercial awareness, which we've spoken about. But is there anything coming up or in the pipeline that students can maybe look out for?
Yeah, definitely. So we're in the process of pulling together our autumn event schedule, as I'm sure Zoe is as well. So yeah, definitely, I would say probably from the beginning of September, most firms will start to update their websites with the next year's opportunities, and everyone will have lots of fabulous events planned where you can really get to know each of the firms that you're interested in applying for, and then application forms for us will go live on the 1st of October for vacation schemes, training contracts, and also our first year and penultimate year non-law programs, which run over the Easter breaks. So yeah, lots to come. Nothing live just yet, but watch this space.
Yeah, we are in the process of doing the same and pulling together our schedules. We will open applications on the 26th of September this year for all of our different programs. And aside from that, I think the only thing I would add is that this is likely to be the first time in a couple of years that, you know, most firms will be back on campus in person. So take that opportunity, attend your university's law fair, any events that your law society is running, because we're really excited to be back out, and so take that opportunity to come and meet the firms that you're interested in person and have your questions ready.
I'm not completely abreast of the early careers work with Ashurst, but I'm sure it's along the same lines. And any information goes to the Ashurst careers/students and graduates, and that will give you information there.
No, that's absolutely brilliant. Thank you all very much. If anybody does have any other questions at all, you know where to find the 3 firms, either on their own early careers websites, or obviously you can find them on targetjobs.co.uk. But yeah, thank you very much both to Zoe and Ali for joining us, and an even bigger thank you to the students that have taken time out of their day-to-day to join us as well. As I mentioned at the start, all 3 firms will be at our Aspire Law event in the autumn. So if you are interested in that, do head on to the Target Jobs website on the events page, and you'll be able to pre-register your interest. But other than that, good luck to everybody going into the next year of university in whatever you choose to do. But if it is a law career, then fingers crossed you will get there. But yeah, thank you very much and enjoy the rest of your day.